Welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Brandon, back with Jesse for episode 21.
We're here, Brandon. Woo!
21. Dealer
21.
wins. Dealer wins. Dang it, I lost again.
I always lose.
Oh, yeah, you do. Last week's episode.
Great episode.
I thought so. Talked a little bit about being your own competitor.
Getting out of your own way.
Getting out of your own way. Staying in your lane, right?
Yeah.
I know the chit-chat got to be a little much for some people last week.
Yeah, we heard a little bit.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a comment about that one, but...
in all fairness, we recorded that episode real early.
It was really early.
We're not at our best at that wee hour of the morning.
3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It makes it a little tough.
Give us just a little bit of a break.
A little bit of a break, especially coming off the week we had, but...
Yeah.
what do you do, right? I mean, I was trying to find my house for half the week, and then...
and then your stuff.
Trying to record a podcast at 3:30 in the morning. But, we're back. We're going to do better this week, right?
We're going to try. Can't make any promises. We're not professionals, guys.
Yeah, we're pretending to be professionals.
Two average CNC guys. Just
mediocre CNC guys pretending to be
best.
professional radio guys.
I like that.
This is going well.
Put that on my resume.
Pretending to be a professional radio guy?
I'm an amateur radio guy.
Yeah. This week I think we're going to talk a little bit about developing your maintenance schedule.
How to take care of your machine?
Yeah, we talk about maintenance. I mean, we've talked about buying machines and what machines do for you, but what do you do after you buy the machine, right?
That's a good question.
So we're going to talk about that, but little disclaimer, if you mess your machine up, it's your fault, not ours.
Disclaimer.
We're just going to give you the overview. We're morons talking, consult an actual tech. What are you doing over there,
Bob? You Bob?
Yeah, I know. What is Garrett doing? He's hit the button. Back to my disclaimer that he interrupted me. So, full disclaimer, we're morons talking. Always consult a tech person or someone smarter than us for your maintenance needs.
You guys are such morons.
ShopSabre or ourselves are not responsible for lack of maintenance or wrong maintenance on your machines. So, read your owner's manuals. Call the companies that you purchased your machine from if it's not a ShopSabre. If you don't have a tech team to call, well, you should have bought ShopSabre because you'd have someone to call. It would have been us. So, well, not me personally. It would have been the tech guys. But nevertheless, that's our disclaimer. So, for full disclosure there, consult your tech guys and your manual about proper maintenance. But we're going to go over, some basic maintenance and some rules of thumb and suggestions.
Awesome.
Things that maybe you don't think about.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Sweet.
Does that sound fair?
Let's jump in.
Well, no. Let's talk about the fair first.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We went to the fair.
We went to the fair this week. That was fun.
Did we put that picture up on Facebook yet?
No, I don't think we did. I don't think Garrett even has the picture yet.
We should get that up there.
So we went to the state fair, Garrett. It's a fun story here for you. And we went to the Sweet Martha's Cookies.
Yes, we did.
And then guess what we didn't have with our cookies? What didn't we have?
Well, we walked over to the all-you-can-drink milk tent, and it was closed.
So let me get this straight. So the milk and cookies are so important together that they don't even have the same hours?
Yeah, they clearly don't talk to each other.
Oh, so it's not absolutely necessary.
I didn't even have a water or anything.
Can you refresh my memory on what is the one beverage that was in our possession at the time we were eating cookies?
You did get a water from
Yeah,
Sweet Martha's.
Sweet Martha's Cookies sold me a water. Yeah, that's right, water and cookies. So mic drop on that deal. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
the rumor is we might be going back.
We might be.
Might be a ShopSabre day.
We might have to do it.
We might do it. Not you, Garrett. Just sit there and push buttons.
Garrett will be with us. He'll be
Garrett's
taking
got to be with us.
photos.
He's got to take photos and video because we're going to have a ShopSabre out and about moment.
ShopSabre out and about at the fair with Brandon and Jesse.
Yeah, this ought to be good. But
This ought to be great.
This ought to be good. Remember when we first walked into the fair and then we bought a Pronto Pup, and it took us 25 minutes to get out of the Pronto Pup stand because I had to explain to the kid how to do math behind the stand.
That's our future.
I was like, hey, I'll take 2 Pronto Pups, and here's a 20. He gave me back 1 Pronto Pup and $2. And I'm like,
wait, there's $6
I'm
a piece.
I'm pretty sure the inflation has gotten out of control. If Pronto Pups are now $18 a piece.
I was dying laughing.
And I'm like, I need a second Pronto Pup and $8. And he's like, okay. And then he handed me a second Pronto Pup and just stared at me. Okay, I got the Pronto Pup. Now I need $8, and he handed me $6. All right, we're getting there. I still need $2 more from you.
It was awesome being a spectator of that. I can't even begin to explain.
I was helping him. We got it figured out. It took us like 20 minutes. We got it. Finally got Pronto Pups. I ate the first one while trying to get the second one. So that was nice. But
It was a good time.
yeah, anyways, so let's talk a little bit about maintenance.
Let's get after it.
Let's get after it. High maintenance, low maintenance,
Gold jacket, green jacket.
I don't know why. That's what I thought of too. That's funny. Gold jacket, green jacket. But yeah, what is maintenance? What does it mean when you say maintenance? What are you actually talking about?
No, you're talking about the process of maintaining and preserving something, right? Taking care of it, keeping it in a state of being maintained.
True. That's a pretty good explanation of that. So, yeah, when you're in the process of keeping something in good condition,
Yeah.
you have to do certain things to it.
Yeah.
Preventative maintenance, if you will. You have to, really talk about the manufacturer, itself. Like, what did you buy? Did you buy a Bobcat?
Right.
Did you buy a
Car.
a CNC machine? Did you buy a printer? What did you buy? Because maintenance is going to be different for everything that you do. You got to really ask the equipment manufacturer, what is the maintenance on this item? I think it's funny because a lot of people, they don't even ask that question. Did you ask the company that you're buying from what the maintenance schedule was, or were you just too excited that you were buying something?
Yeah, or you just completely forgot.
Yeah, I think that's something that gets missed a lot. People go out and buy toys, whatever it is. You buy a boat, you buy a jet ski.
Yeah.
Whatever. And you never really ask, like, what should I be doing to this thing? Like,
That's
when?
an important question.
Because you know what you're thinking? I got a jet ski. How am I going to get out of the water?
Exactly.
That's what you're thinking.
Exactly.
Because have you ever seen a guy frowning on a jet ski?
Never.
Never.
No.
So don't tell me money doesn't buy happiness. You can buy a jet ski.
Yeah, maintenance important. I can't even speak there. Look at that. That maintenance schedule is important, and the cost of maintenance, knowing that ahead of time, is
Absolutely.
also important, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Like when you look at a cost, of something, you buy something, right? And I think that's what get missed. Now it's contagious. Now I can't talk.
Yeah, we're on it. Let's
this
go.
This is going great. I think that's something that people miss though, is they look at a product, right?
Yeah.
Let's just, because we're in CNC, that's what we're going to talk about here. You look at a CNC machine and you see these machines that come in from overseas.
Yeah.
And they are cheaper than typically an American machine.
Yep.
That's the advantage of buying something overseas. Is that
Right.
it's cheaper.
Right. Cost effective.
Yeah. Problem is it's cheaper for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, they forget that there's maintenance now involved. Nobody ever asks that and never truly understands it. And so then they think, the maintenance is the same between the two machines. And now they bought the cheaper machine and the maintenance is higher on the cheaper machine. So by the time you look at actual cost of ownership over 10 years,
Yep.
you spent more money on an import machine than you could have on the U.S. machine.
Absolutely.
Because
Something
you
gotta
simply
take into
didn't ask the question.
consideration.
Yeah, you didn't ask the question, right?
What's the maintenance going to cost me on this piece of equipment?
Exactly. It's a simple question to ask. And even if the sales guy lies to you, right? Because unfortunately there are some of those guys out there.
Unfortunately.
At least you did your due diligence and asked the question.
Right.
And you have a leg to stand on later on.
Right.
It's the worst thing is when you never, God, I'm struggling this morning. You never asked the question. So you can't even go back on like, hey, well, you never even told me because you never asked, you know? So
Yep.
it's one of those things where always ask that question. We love it when people ask us that, because I think it gives us an upper hand in the discussion because our equipment is really low maintenance.
It is, very low.
comparably to a high maintenance machine,
Absolutely.
So, when you talk about that, what does it mean when a company says low maintenance, Like, we say low maintenance, ask us to explain that.
Right.
I truly mean it. Like, I'm not afraid to explain what low maintenance means because everybody's going to tell you, it's low maintenance, our machines are low maintenance. What does that mean?
Explain that to me.
Yeah. What does our low maintenance mean? Well, low maintenance means that you're going to have less hands-on time with the machine. You don't need to take covers off and lubricate internal components. You're not taking things apart to maintain the machine. You're not squaring the machine. You're not doing a bunch of stuff that some of these other machines require.
Yep.
And that's what makes it low maintenance is that, are you still going to have maintenance? Absolutely. Like anything, you're going to have maintenance. I mean, you have daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever maintenance. But it's a lot lower level of attention and care that you have to give to it than some of these other machines out there.
Absolutely.
There's more technology, inside the machine that takes care of some of that maintenance. Like the motors themselves, they're brushless. You don't have brushes to replace in it. That's low maintenance.
Yeah,
There's companies out
nice.
there that sell motors that require you to replace brushes inside the servo motors.
Oh, what a pain that would be.
Or stepper motors that are, the magnets, there's such a low power magnet that you're replacing stepper motors frequently. The stepper drives, things like that. It's high maintenance. There's high maintenance machines out there. Well, I think we just kind of alluded to some of that.
Kind of.
Yeah, you have some of the brushes. Explain the difference for me, Jesse. What's the difference in having a high maintenance to a low maintenance machine? What do you what would you tell a customer if they were looking at you and going, what was the difference between a low maintenance machine like a ShopSabre and a high maintenance machine like, somebody else's?
Time. It's going to cost a lot more of your time to keep the maintenance up on that high maintenance machine versus the low maintenance machine is a couple minutes out of your week, each week, maybe every other week, depending on the use of your machine.
And what is time, Jesse?
Time is money.
And time is money.
Time is money.
The reality is what it really is. Let's be honest with each other. Time is something you don't have.
Right.
And when you don't have time, what are you not doing?
Maintenance.
Yeah, you're going to skip it.
Absolutely.
There's 2 rules of thumb.
We'll get it next week.
Yeah, there's 2 rules of thumb when it comes to maintenance, in my opinion. The harder you make it, the less people are going to do it.
Yep.
And the longer it takes, the less people are going to dedicate time to do it.
Absolutely.
So, that's my 2 rules of thumb. Don't make it hard and don't make it take forever.
Yep.
And that's why for us, we have, invested a lot of time on our end to make these machines low maintenance.
Absolutely. We made it very easy.
Well, we do that because we're not dumb. If you don't do your maintenance, whose product looks bad?
That's us.
Yeah. So you're making me look bad because you're too lazy to do your maintenance.
Yep.
So I'd rather make it low maintenance so there's a lower chance that you're going to make me look bad.
I like it.
Right?
I like it.
That's right. Set myself up for success.
Yes.
So, when you look at that low maintenance versus high maintenance, it's time. It really comes down to time and the effort that you're going to have to put into that machine. I think a big thing that gets missed, and one topic I like to touch on when we're talking about maintenance is rack and pinion versus ball screw.
Right.
That's a really big topic out there, and we've talked about these, in previous episodes a little bit, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about rack and pinion and ball screw in the future episodes as well. But one thing I like to talk about is with rack and pinion, there's a lot of sales guys out there that they mislead people to believe that ball screws are high maintenance. We hear it all the time for some reason, it's so expensive to have a ball screw machine.
It doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, that's what I always laugh at. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? He has no idea what he's talking about. If he's telling you that, he's grasping at straws here.
Absolutely.
The reality is rack and pinion, by the facts, is far more maintenance than a ball screw system.
It just makes sense. You think about it.
Yeah, when you look at a rack and pinion system, you've got a gear that's driving along on this little track, right?
Yeah.
Well, the track's not moving, but the gear is.
Yep.
So the teeth of the gear are making different contact points all the way down your machine.
Right.
How can that be the same as a ball bearing that slides all the way up and down the machine?
It's not.
It can't. The reality is
impossible.
Impossible. Impossible.
Impossible.
No, that's a wild pig. That's a wild boy.
Possible. The rack and pinion itself, it's metal on metal contact for one.
Right.
There's no seals, wipers, things like that on a rack and pinion system. So, you have a lot of contact there.
You do.
And it's various contact because it's a different tooth with a different track at different points of the machine.
Yeah, it's going to change from tooth to tooth. It's not always going to be the same.
So you got a 10-foot machine and you're using the first 8 feet of the machine more than the last 2 feet of the machine, right?
Yep.
Where's your wear going to happen?
In the first 8 feet.
Yeah. Or in some cases, let's say you do a lot of smaller stuff, so it's the first 2 feet,
Oof,
right?
Yeah.
You're going to wear out different parts of your machine.
You are.
And that requires attention. People don't realize that. That's an attention.
Well, you can't just leave it?
No, you can't just leave it.
You can't just let it wear out?
No.
Oh.
Not like
Okay.
you just leave it and good luck. Fix yourself. But yeah, you got to check the track for debris.
Yep.
That's one thing to think about. There's stuff gets wedged in between the track and the gear runs it over. Well, it's mashing it in there.
You're creating wear.
Yep. And where is that debris coming from?
From your table, from what you're cutting.
Yeah. You're cutting cabinets. You're cutting signs. You're cutting something. And fine debris is getting in the air. And that is landing on those tracks.
And you're running it over.
Yep. And most cases, if your manufacturer of equipment has given you any positive information, they've told you to put some lubrication on that track because metal on metal is worse than metal with lubrication. So now you're manually lubricating that track constantly. Well, now you have grease that's going to stick
And
things
it's going
together.
to hold debris.
Yeah, and it creates a contaminant that now you have stuck inside those tracks. So now you have to clean it out.
It sounds easy.
You ever seen a guy take a toothbrush and clean out his rack and
That
pinion?
sounds easy.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah. No thanks.
But nevertheless, it's something you should do.
Yeah, you
It's
have
something
to.
You have to think about is, checking your pinion for wear, cleaning it out, the contamination, get all that out of there. And then here's the big kicker. It's worn out, right?
Yep.
Heaven forbid you had a little bit of wear.
Yep.
You have to adjust for backlash.
What?
Yep. You have to adjust for backlash.
How are we doing that?
I don't know. I'm not adjusting for backlash. I use ball screws, bro. No, you have to get in there. You have to get in there with a wrench, a lot of times screwdriver, whatever the mechanism that your manufacturer used. And you have to adjust the gears and measure the tolerance. Make sure there's no slop. How do you measure for tolerance that changes? That's my question.
I can't answer that.
Very carefully is the answer.
Is it?
Yeah, because there's no answer to that question because the first 3 feet of your machine might be different than the last 3 feet of your machine. So you have to choose which one's more important to you, the front or the back. You got to choose.
I don't like those choices.
Yeah, and then you have to kind of come up with a happy medium because if you over tighten them, you're going to bind the machine up. Excessive wear. If you under tighten them, you have slop. So now you have extra backlash and or you can slip a gear or miss a tooth or, miss a step.
Ooh.
See, all terrible things.
All terrible things.
This is awesome.
Sounds awful.
Sounds terrible. So, really when you look at, and in certain applications, keep in mind, there's a point where your rack and pinion might not be under load. So for all you guys listening that have like laser machines or plasma machines, you're not putting a lot of load against those rack systems.
Yep.
So by nature, you can probably run them a little bit loose, to avoid the concern with, over tightening them.
Yep.
Because you're not putting excessive force into the drive system. You're not putting, rigidity against it.
Yeah.
So you're okay. But a router application, you have to be a little bit more, aware of that stuff because you're putting lateral forces against it. Yeah. So just something to be aware of. And then you also have to think about adjusting for squareness from side to side because most rack and pinion machines have 2 gears, one on the left side, one on the right side.
Right.
They're not going to wear the same.
No, they're not.
So now you have to adjust because the left gear's turning 1 revolution is not the same as the 1 revolution on the right gear. Adjustment. You have to think about that.
I don't want to do any of that. Yeah, I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah,
it makes my head spin just trying to think about how I would go about that.
Yeah, and that's just, this is an overview. Remember that. I can go way further in depth on some of this
I know.
stuff. But I'm just giving you the overview on that. Now let's talk about ball screw, right?
Yeah.
Because ball screws are higher maintenance. Remember that.
Yeah.
Everybody says that.
Makes sense.
They're not.
No.
Here's why they're not. Because what you have to do with a ball screw is lubricate the grease zerk. There's a grease zerk right on the nut.
Yeah.
And
Very easy to find.
Yeah, very easy to find it.
Nut dust.
And then you lubricate that. And then all you have to do at that point is let the machine do its business. No adjustment. You don't have to adjust for backlash. You're not having to adjust for squareness. The ball screws are the ball screw, and the servo motors are going to do the work for you. Again, if you're in a lower level of machine, maybe you're running stepper motors, maybe you're running lead screws, you're going to have some different maintenance associated there that you'll want to talk to your manufacturer about. But we're going to talk about what we know here, and that's servo-controlled ball screw machines.
Right.
They require very little maintenance at all with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the biggest thing about greasing a ball screw, use the right grease.
Yeah, it's important.
Like, don't assume you're smarter than you are. Like, I caution everybody because you get guys out there that are, I got this grease in my shop, I'm going to stick it. No, this isn't a lawnmower.
Right.
Don't stick lawnmower grease in your ball screw machine.
Right.
Like, it's not the same. Don't grab that red bearing grease that you have because you use it on your trailers. Like, no.
Ooh, that'd be bad.
Yeah, like, don't. Like, follow the instructions. Like, read what it's asking for. There's a right and a wrong grease for this type of stuff. And I'm going to be straight up honest with you. The wrong grease is just as bad as no grease at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's bad.
Yep.
Like, you do not want to put the wrong grease in there. You do that, you might be buying new ball nuts. And then it gets expensive.
Ooh, I don't want to do that.
If you want to add expense to your ball screw machine, do the maintenance wrong.
Yuck. No, don't do the maintenance wrong.
Otherwise, just follow simple instructions of grease the machine.
Absolutely.
And use the right grease. That's
Absolutely.
it. Really, that's what it comes down to on a ball screw. You have to inspect it for damage. I always tell everybody, anytime you grease anything, ever, you should always look for damage, right? Always inspect things.
Preventative maintenance.
Rack and pinion or ball screw or whatever. You always want to check for damage.
Yep.
And what I mean by checking for damage is what are you looking at? Well, you're looking at the seals. You're looking at the wipers. Make sure that something, didn't puncture one. Heaven forbid something fell off the wall, right? A scrap piece of material and you ran into it. If you punctured that bearing, you've now created an entrance for debris.
Yep.
The benefit of a ball screw is it's a sealed unit. All the ball bearings are enclosed in a safe world, right? They're all inside their safety zone, and every one of those,
safety zone.
Yeah, and they have these barriers that keep debris out. As long as you keep them lubricated, they're a positive pressure system, so they're pushing outward, therefore wiping debris away and not letting contaminant get inside the bearings.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so it's a clean environment. It's a clean world. The wipers and all that clean off the slides as it moves up and down in the axis, and all you have to do is wipe off the debris at the end of the table, which is a daily thing I do. That's part of my daily maintenance. I wipe off the end of the bearing slides to make sure that all the debris that's building up and creating a dam is not going to then eventually harden and turn into an outside force pressing against the seals.
Right, absolutely. Makes sense.
So that's why I wipe that off. It's just something that's really easy to do. And I mean, that's the maintenance on a ball screw.
It's minutes.
Yeah. So anybody who tells you ball screws are way higher maintenance has no idea what they're talking about. Way less.
Absolutely.
Maybe years ago when you had to adjust for backlash and you had to do a lot more with,
when whip was the thing.
Yeah, when whip was a big part of it and you had to tighten and tension the ball screws. Yeah, maybe there was more back then. But in today's world, ball screws are really low maintenance.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why the majority of your high precision machines run ball screw.
Truth.
It's just because of the fact that there's precision there that you can count on.
Very little maintenance.
Yeah.
Much easier.
The other thing to talk about here is your electronics, right? You have electronics in your machine.
You do.
And let's talk about, debris again, right?
Absolutely.
Debris is going to float around, and occasionally you might get some chips that go inside your cabinet, whether it's through the filter or it's, through an opening where the wire carrier comes out, whatever. You're going to get some debris inside your cabinets, generally.
It's going to happen.
I don't care how much money you spend, there's going to be some sort of debris in there, dust, whatever it is, right? Clean that cabinet out occasionally. It's okay to turn the machine off, and with safety air, and I don't say don't grab your air compressor and blow her up to 150 and start blowing air in there.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
You can buy the canned air that's designed for computers.
Yep.
Right? Go buy that, and then just, give it a little spray in there. Get some of that dust out of it.
Get that stuff out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you got to blow out your filters.
Yep.
Change those. There's filters on those cabinets a lot of times. Take them off, blow them out.
Just like any other filter in life.
Yep.
Need to be replaced or cleaned.
Yep, exactly. And some of these cabinets have washable filters, so you can actually wash them.
Oh, that's cool.
Get all the debris out of them.
That's cool.
Let them dry before you turn your system back on.
Yeah, please.
Because water and electronics don't get along. And then check your connections. I know it sounds stupid, but walk up to your connections and, push on them. Connectors, make sure they haven't come loose. Make sure somebody didn't step on something, right?
Yeah.
Just check your connections. It's that easy. Make sure that the connections are, secure.
Solid, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, you have these boards inside controller, or in your control system, I guess is what I'm looking for a word there. You have, PCI cards or PCI Express cards or whatever you're running. These boards, they seat into the motherboard or into the connection that they get their power from. From vibration and things, I've seen cards come loose in certain machines.
Oh, it can happen for sure.
Say you moved, okay?
Yep.
Everything's running great, right? But you had to move the machine. All that movement can jar things loose.
Yeah, it can happen.
All you got to do is open the cabinet up, push on the cards, make sure they're all tight.
Yep.
It happens. But by a simple maintenance program, you can resolve any problems that you're going to have down the road.
Or you can avoid a lot of problems that you could have. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so just reseat your cards sometimes. Push down on them, make sure everything's tight, then move forward. You're cleaning the cabinet out anyways. You might as well just check to make sure everything's tight in there, right?
Right.
And I'm not telling you to start pulling on wires. Don't do that.
No, don't pull on wires.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
Just grab the connection and check
Yeah,
the
on
connection.
both ends.
Don't tug on wires.
Yeah, both ends, you push together, make sure they're together. Don't start pulling against it.
Yep.
Let's see if they're loose by pulling on them. Don't do that.
no
It's a bad
tugging.
idea.
Stop.
Just push in.
That's it, boy. Tug hard. Harder.
And then we got to talk about, so those are some big high overview items, but let's talk about, you're going to have daily maintenance, right?
Yep.
We talked about that.
Yep.
You're going to also have weekly maintenance, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then we're going to probably have, a bi-yearly.
Bi-yearly maintenance?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a yearly
maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of makes sense. So, what do you do daily, Jesse? What would you do daily on your machine?
What would I do daily on my machine? I would
Yeah.
blow it down, right? I want to blow my table off, keep it clean. I want to wipe down my ball screws or my rack and pinion. That's what I would do daily to start with, right? Keep my machine clean and my area clean, and then wipe my equipment down.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, you check it over. I think that's the one thing when you're blowing off the machine, check it over.
Yeah.
Look at it for visual flaws or concerns, right? The one thing I tell you is your daily routine should be safety related.
Oh,
Daily,
absolutely.
You check your safety stuff. Make sure everything's working there. If you have guards on your machine, some of these big mills that you run or whatever your robots, you have guards or shrouds or safety mats or curtains or whatever. Check those things out.
Yeah.
I think people see these, they put these safety mats in place, right?
Yep.
And they work the day they install them and things are working great, but they never actually go back and check to make sure they continuously work.
You should test
They have
those.
sensors in them.
Yeah.
Things go bad.
Yep.
Walk on that mat. Make sure that it stops the machine.
Yep.
Or
You should almost test that daily.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Or if you have a safety mat that you have to, some people have a safety mat you have to stand on.
Yep.
And it only runs when you're standing on the mat. As soon as you step off the mat, it shuts the machine down. step off the mat then.
Test it.
Test it. Make sure
Absolutely.
it's working. Yeah, I mean, just check those things out. It's a safety thing. The last place you want to find out your safety stuff isn't working is when you needed it to work.
Right, when an accident happens.
Yeah, like preventative, maintenance there. So check your safety stuff out. It's an easy, quick check that you can do daily. Check your tooling, right? Whatever the tooling is that you're running on the machine.
Yep.
Whether it's a rotational bit for your routers or your mills, or you're running a knife machine, so you got to check your knives.
Yep.
Maybe you run a plasma table, so you're checking your consumables. Maybe you run a laser, so you're going to check your optics, right? Check all that stuff out. Whatever it is on your machine that is a consumable, check that daily.
Yeah, don't just assume it's good.
Yeah, check your tooling out. On your router tables, we're going to check our spoil board daily. I recommend that daily. And the reason I say that is that sometimes in your humid environment, your spoil boards are going to change.
They can, absolutely.
So now you need to resurface it, right?
Yep.
So that's something you should check daily. Is your zeros way off? Because if they're way off, you're going to be upset, and then you're going to call up and say the machine's not accurate, and then we're going to tell you, did you check your spoil board? And you're going to say no, and then we're going to tell you to do that.
Then we're going to find out it was your spoil board.
Then we're going to find out your spoil board.
Yep.
And then you just yelled at somebody that it was the machine. Now you have to feel bad about it. And we're standing over here going, maybe you should have checked that before you yelled at us.
We'll still help you, though.
We still love you.
Absolutely.
But, no, but seriously, though, I mean, it's something that's just simple. Check it. Not a lot of people yell at us, let's be honest. That was kind of a joke.
It
but
was.
The reality is like, they do call up and say, hey, man, like, my zero's off for some reason. And the first thing we tell them is, when's the last time you checked your spoil board? Oh, I didn't even think about that. Let's do that real quick. That's what it is, and they move on. It saves them a headache if you just check the spoil board in the morning. It also will save you material sometimes because you don't find out the hard way that your zero is off, So check your spoil board. Resurface as necessary. If you're in a temperature-controlled environment, you probably don't have to do it as often. But related to the spoil board, you want to check your vacuum pump for suction, right?
Yep.
Make sure it's still pulling. Make sure the filters aren't clogged, and I'm not telling you to take your pump apart every day.
Right.
When you turn the vacuum pump on, give it the old college try. Try to push on the material. Make sure it's,
the old
not
college
moving around.
try, yeah.
Make sure it's not, moving around on you.
I'll give it the old college try.
And then make sure whenever you turn your vacuum pump on, you give it a little push, and then you say, that ain't going anywhere.
That ain't going nowhere.
As long as you say that, it's like hauling something on a trailer. As long as you pull on the strap.
It's like a good luck thing.
Yeah. It's like universal code. If you pull on the strap
That
after you
ain't
tighten
going
it, that ain't
anywhere.
going anywhere. It ain't going anywhere.
Right.
It's when you don't say it ain't going anywhere, it's going somewhere.
That's when something happens.
So, so you got to make sure you say it ain't going anywhere.
Definitely want to check your hydraulic fluid levels, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you said that because we're kind of alluding to CNC machines here. But let's say you own a tractor or you own another piece of equipment, right?
Right.
Check your hydraulic fluids. That's something to think about daily. Related to hydraulic fluids is your hydraulic pressures, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure your pressures are good. Check your lines. Make sure nothing's leaking. You don't have leaks anywhere. You're losing pressure.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Cooling system.
Yeah, cooling system. That's another good one. Again, on a CNC machine, it's your fans.
Yep.
So you're gonna make sure your fans are spinning. Make sure they're turning on. Just look at
spindle,
it.
is your fan on?
Yeah, it's that easy. I mean, you just look at it. That's
Visual.
how fast it could be. A visual.
Visual.
You turn it on in the morning. Oh, yep, fans are cooling. It's better to check and know they're working than to not check and have it overheat, right?
Absolutely.
Fortunately, ShopSabre machines have overheat sensors built into them, but not all
Beautiful.
machines have that. So if a fan fails, you burn something up before you even realize it, right? So as you said, in a coolant system, maybe you have a tractor. Make sure your coolant system's topped off. Make sure it's got what it needs. Make sure there's not any leaks. It's all important stuff there. So that's a good one, Jesse. I'm glad you said that one.
I'm glad we're going through this because this is starting to ring some bells for me of things I need to check.
Yeah, I know, right? And then, the one thing, we talked a little bit about consumables. You're going to check on all your consumables. But one consumable that I think gets forgotten, the dust collector.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's forgotten.
So empty as needed daily.
Right.
Check that. See if it needs to be empty because once the dust collector gets too full, it's going to back up into the system, clog the
choke it up.
filters. Yep. And then then that's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
Unchoking a pipe is one of the worst things ever.
Or trying to get the filter to breathe again.
Yep.
Because you just backed all the debris into the filter.
Yep.
So I would definitely check your dust collector every day. Just check it.
Just empty it.
Yeah, empty it if you can.
Just start the day that way.
Yeah,
Just
if you can. And then check your power connections. It's that simple. Make sure the power plugs aren't loose.
Yep.
Push them into the wall.
Make sure rodents haven't been chewing on them.
Yeah,
right?
just check that stuff out daily. That's easy stuff, like daily. Yeah. That stuff, if you do that, you could be done in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's really fast.
Yeah, and
it doesn't take a lot of time.
No, I mean,
it's just thinking about it. It's just remembering, getting in the habit.
Make it a habit, exactly.
Time is money, and money pays for things.
You'll do it naturally once it's a habit.
Yeah.
So you do that, and then I guess if we're not doing it daily, we should do something weekly, right?
We should.
So what are you going to do weekly?
Well, I'm going to check the drive system, look at pinions, gears, tracks, check ball screws, look at motors, check bolts, spindle head,
That's what I would do too. I agree with
Absolutely.
you on all that. Like check over the drive system,
Yep.
make sure everything just looks right. Again, checking pinions, checking your ball screws, your wipers, things like that.
Make sure everything's tight, everything looks clean.
I like when you said, excuse me there, I may have coughed into the mic.
That's all right. Yeah, no, you're good.
Check the bolts on the spindle head. I mean, that's something to think about is how much force have you put into that machine all week long, depending on what you're doing.
A ton.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
bolts may have loosened up or, heaven forbid, something broke, right? You
They
know,
are machines, right?
Yeah.
Things do happen over periods of
Check
time.
it.
Yeah.
It takes very little time to just make sure the bolts are still snug and tight.
Absolutely.
Because it's a bad day if the bolts back out and then you find out at 1,200 inches a minute.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's
That
not
sounds
fun.
expensive.
It can be expensive. The other thing to think about is depending on your machine, you may be at the weekly stuff, you might be lubricating the machine. It might be a 40-hour
Yeah.
timetable, right?
Absolutely.
Some of them are 60-hour timetables. You know, we always say 40 to 60 hours here.
Yep.
So many of our customers are doing that within the week.
Absolutely.
They're putting 40 to 60 hours on their machine every
Yep.
week. So if you're doing that, make sure every week then you're, doing that. And now if you're not using it 40 to 60 hours of running time, then this might become a every other week kind of deal.
Correct.
But you want to add it to your schedule so you don't forget to lubricate the machine.
You do.
And you definitely don't want to over lubricate.
No, you don't.
Because that's the one thing that, I think people think or lose sight of is that I'll just add lubrication to it. No, don't do that. If you haven't used the machine, don't do it because then you're putting too much grease in the bearings.
You're gonna blow out your seals.
Yeah, bearings don't roll as freely then, and then they build pressure. And when you build pressure inside a bearing, you're going to blow out a seal.
Yep.
So you're going to cause problems, and then once you blow a seal out, debris gets in there and wears the bearing out. So
Grease it on its time schedule.
yeah, on its time schedule. Make sure you're doing that. Now, that's something that I touch on because there's certain machines out there that use auto lubricators. Now, in the milling world, that makes sense, right?
Right.
Totally makes sense because you're in a kind of a dirtier environment, if you will. You
Yeah.
know, the milling world has coolants and everything flowing in there, so a little bit of liquid grease isn't going to hurt you.
Right.
But on a CNC router, a flatbed table, it's a terrible thing. Those auto lubricators are, if you have the choice to buy it with auto or manual lubrication, buy manual every time. And here's why. I know I got guys out there right now going, you've got my interest. Go on. Here's why. I'm going to tell you. Auto lubricators sound great. They're great for a sales guy because now they can sell you on a feature. Oh, our machine takes care of itself.
Yeah,
Low
you don't
maintenance.
got to do the maintenance anymore.
Low maintenance, right?
We got it for you.
No, they're wrong. Here's the problem. Auto lubricators have no idea what they're doing.
They don't?
No, there's no brain behind
Just
it.
pumping grease at
Yeah.
random?
So there's either a little handle.
Yeah.
that your guy walks up and gives it the old,
The old college try.
yeah, and then you got 2 squirts of grease in there and you're good. Here's the problem. All you did when you pumped that was shot grease through the lines.
Yep.
Where'd the grease go?
Who knows?
The closest bearing is where it went.
Is that where it goes?
That bearing got all of the grease first, and your furthest bearing is like, hey, still need some down here. Hey, I'm at
So
the end
you
of the
have
line
to
down here.
sit and pump and pump and pump to get to that last bearing.
Make sure all the lines are getting it evenly. But here's the other issue that you have. It's not that, they're all going to get grease at some point, right?
Yep.
But the front bearing gets the most pressure. You're building line pressure.
Right.
It's just like brakes on a car, right?
Yeah.
You have a master cylinder. There's a different master cylinder for your front and rear brakes for that
Yep.
reason. It's to evenly just disperse that pressure.
Right.
Those central lubricators, there's one going to every bearing. So
I see what you're saying.
you're not
now.
getting even pressure across all your bearings. So certain bearings are getting too much pressure, some are getting not enough. So you're wearing out some bearings because you're putting too much pressure into them. Other bearings are being starved. So, and here's the worst part. You don't care. You're not looking at them because I have a central lubricator.
It's taking care of
I
itself.
gave her the old 2-pump college try there, so we're good. Like, no, it's not how it works, man. Like, you need to inspect still because
Right.
some bearings are going to be starved. Here's the other thing to think about. Let's say you're doing a bunch of 3D this week, right?
Yep.
So your Z-axis is generally doing more work than any other axis in 3D.
Right.
So your Z bearings are going to need more lubrication than maybe your Y bearings.
Makes sense. Absolutely.
But all your bearings just got the same amount of grease.
What?
So the bearing that needed the most.
Needed the most. Might not
Jeez.
have got any.
Got 0, right? It didn't get enough bearing grease to even fill itself back up. So now you're starving your bearings, and guess what? Bearing failures.
Hopefully you have the parts guy's number on hand.
Yeah, well, good news. This guy remember that sales guy who sold you the central lubricator?
Yeah.
His parts department's making money on the maintenance from your machine now.
Yeah, they are.
When-
Because you're buying parts.
Yeah. Central
Sweet.
lubricators are terrible. That's why.
That sounds terrible.
The other thing to think about is leakage.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've had customers call us up and complaining about this. You
Yeah.
know, you have all these lines running throughout your machine,
Yeah.
and you're working on this mahogany,
Beautiful.
beautiful, beautiful fireplace you're making.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
Why is the mahogany changing color in the middle?
Is there a leak?
It seems like we've got some grease on there.
Grease and wood don't mix real well.
Yeah, that's not a real great fit.
No, it's not.
So now you have leaking debris all over your wood table.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's not a good mix. So
No.
now you have to think about replacing lines and seals and dealing with all that junk and added maintenance. It's something you added now to your maintenance schedule because you have to think about that stuff that has to be done because lines are going to leak.
That sounds awful.
What if a line cracks?
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Or, heaven forbid, a line cracks, now you got an air bubble in there and you can't figure out, but you're sucking air into your master cylinder, essentially, and now you have no grease going anywhere.
Have fun troubleshooting that.
Yeah, it's not something I want to deal with.
No.
And
And how much that adds to your maintenance schedule, like walking and checking those lines and trying to trace all that. No thanks.
or being in the middle of a job that took you 6 hours and at 5.5 hours in, it starts leaking on top of your material.
Oh, I think I would burn that machine to the ground.
Ask me how I know that happened.
Because it happened to one of your customers?
It happened to one of my customers. Yeah, he told me about that. It took him 6.5 hour job, big fireplace job, big mantle that he was doing for, I believe it was a resort, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember the story fully here, but he was doing some commercial job. You know, it wasn't some guy's house. It was a big display piece that he was doing. I believe it was a resort, if I'm not mistaken. And when he was cutting this piece, it was like a 6.5 hour job. The 3D, it was a wilderness scene. And yeah, he got like 5.5 hours into the job, and one of his auto lubricating fittings came loose.
Oh my gosh.
And just from vibration, when it moved up and down. And yeah, he obviously wasn't at the machine for 6.5 hours. He was
Right.
letting the machine do its machine stuff.
Right, making money doing something else.
Yep, and he was doing something else. He come back and there's a big puddle on top of the.
Oh my gosh.
And obviously grease stained it. There's no way he could get the grease out of the
No,
wood.
it's junk.
Yeah, so the guy ended up taking it. The guy ended up taking the project, but at a discounted price.
That
So
sucks.
He had to give a discount to the guy to get the guy to take the piece still. But like I told him, and me and him talked about it a little bit, is that's not a proud project.
No.
Not something he wants to show off to everybody
No,
because
not
there's a
at
giant
all.
stain in the middle of it, And
Yeah.
the guy who owned the resort was really cool about it, I guess. Sounds like the guy was okay with it. But it was one of the things that when he was buying his new machine for me, he's like, I don't want an auto lubricator, please. And I'm like,
No.
good. You're not going to get one on my machine. Like, I don't want one either. So auto lubricators make sense in a oily environment, right? And a
Right.
mill, if it leaks, who cares? It's going into your mill system. It's the same
Doesn't
grease.
matter.
Doesn't matter, exactly. But in a dry environment, something where your material, a print environment, a wood material environment, something like that, you don't necessarily want that. So there's a right and a wrong place for auto lubricators. The other thing is some of these auto lubricators actually have electronic pumps. So now you're dependent on an electronic pump doing the work. So electronics can fail, things can go wrong there, sensors.
So then you have to check your electronic
Correct.
pump
Now you
as
got
part of
other
your
things
maintenance
going-
schedule.
Yeah, you got more stuff going on there. So you got the mechanical side, but you got the electronic side. A lot of the Chinese machines use these auto lubricators. They sell it as a benefit. It's a marketing tactic by the Chinese to do that. Where when you look at American machines, majority of reputable American machines aren't using those auto lubricators for that reason.
Yeah, you don't see that very common.
No, it's very uncommon. So that's something that you have to think about too. So, as we get into that lubrication side, we kind of got derailed there. But the next thing you got to talk about is your normal housekeeping, right?
Yep.
Clean the machine off.
Right.
Do your normal cleaning, do your normal, like we talked about, blow it all off, just
Clean around
sweep
the machine
it.
as well.
Yeah,
Keep
wipe
your area
off
clean.
debris. Check your filters. Again, do that weekly.
Yeah.
Clean and change them as necessary. Check water levels on water tables if you're a plasma guy. Make
Keep
sure
it-
water levels
Absolutely.
stay, where it needs to be, because honestly, water evaporates.
Keep it topped off.
Yep, keep it where it needs to be. Inspect your tooling for wear. You have to
important.
sharpen tooling, so inspect that.
Check it for cracks. Check it for damage as well. That's
Yep,
important.
chips, things like that.
Yep.
And then you get into like the bi-yearly stuff.
Yeah.
And some of this bi-yearly stuff may turn into like quarterly, depending on what you're
How
doing.
busy you are, how much you run the machine.
But guess what I would do at bi-yearly?
What would you do, Brandon?
I'd still check over the drive system again.
You would?
Yep. And this is where you're going to probably think about replacing and adjusting parts as needed for like rack and pinion machines.
Yeah.
Your pinions are going to be worn after 6 months of use. You're going to need to think about adjustment or wear and think about replacing them.
Right.
So
Make that part of your plan.
yeah, add that to your maintenance schedule. It's cost. Inspect the bearings. And as you see fit, replace them.
Right.
There
Right.
are certain bearings that you may, if you've damaged a bearing or you have an issue going on, or you've put 1,000,000 hours into your machine, whatever you're doing.
Time to replace it.
Yeah, replace it. Make sure that you're inspecting for damages on the seals, the wipers, things like that. Again, replace them as needed.
Absolutely. You
Flush
don't
the
want-
bearings.
Flush the bearings.
Yeah.
What is that, Brandon?
So the bearings, again, have grease in them.
Mm-hmm.
They've been recirculating in there.
Yeah.
Well, debris may or may not have gotten in there occasionally or contaminated it, right?
Yep.
So flush them. Do a bearing flush on them. You can actually flush bearings out, and your tech guys can teach you how to do that. So call your tech support team or ours if you're our customer. They'll tell you how to do that.
Awesome.
But flushing your bearings out every 6 months will extend the life of the bearings. It's like an oil change. Good job.
I like that,
Yeah,
Garrett.
Garrett screams from the background. It's an oil change. Good job.
I was wondering
Garrett.
what that was.
Yeah, it was Garrett from the background. Like he's been sleeping in his desk, and he's like that old man in the rocking chair when you change the channel. Hey, I was watching that. Yeah, like what the? He was sleeping back there, and then he screams out oil change. Thanks, Garrett. But so flushing the bearings out is essentially doing your oil change on it. It's important. It's something to think about. You do that every 6 months. Replace the water and clean the water table out.
It's important.
If you have a plasma table, make sure you clean your water table out. And if you don't have a water table, you have a downdraft table, still clean it out every 6 months. Make sure you're cleaning the debris out.
Yep.
Changing filters. Some of you are going to do that sooner. Some of you are going to do that at 3 months.
Right.
Some of you might even do it sooner than that. If you're cutting all day, every day, you may not make 6 months. So
It's very true.
Clean your table out because debris inside your table actually can hurt the performance of your table. Believe it or not, the metal inside their table can affect the grounding. That'll affect your plasma.
Definitely clean that thing out.
Clean it out. Don't paint the table when you clean it out.
Don't paint the table.
No, you see
Right.
these guys that go and clean it and then they paint the whole table.
Yep.
The table's not painted for a reason. Grounding. Don't paint the table. Just clean it, change the water. Run the plasma defense so you don't get a bunch of, deep rust. You might get some surface rust, but not deep rust. Surface rust isn't a bad thing.
It's common.
It's common.
Yep.
Don't get freaked
It's
out.
going to happen with all water tables.
Yep. Don't get freaked out, And then downdraft tables, make sure you replace filters.
Yep, that's important.
That's something you got to think about. Some of you will, again, do that sooner than
Part
6
of your
months.
maintenance schedule,
Yep.
right? Check the filters.
Yep, exactly. You're going to want to check your coolant tanks. If you have a machine that requires coolant, right?
Yeah.
Mills, for example.
Yeah.
Check your tanks for oil, for chips. Check it for sludge. Make sure the lines aren't becoming contaminated, right?
Yep.
It's all stuff you got to do. Clean your radiators. Ensure your films. Yeah, gang signs to you too, bro. What's up? I don't know. Garrett threw some single second.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't know what he's telling me. I think
He
told me
told you to steal third base.
Yeah, I think he told me to steal third base. This pitcher was looking. I wasn't going. But yeah, got to clean the radiator. Ensure the fins are straight and undamaged.
Yep.
That way it gets proper airflow. Remove and clean chunks out of the chunks.
Chunks.
Remove the chunks. I meant to say clean
Remove
the chucks.
chunks.
I meant to say chucks. Clean your chucks
Sorry, man,
and
that was
jaws.
funny.
Yeah, I don't know what's
You
going
got
on
me
there.
there.
Woo!
Clean the chunks.
Clean the chunks. Yeah, make sure you clean all your chunks, but then also you want to clean your chuck and your jaws. So if you have, a chuck on your spindle or a fourth axis chuck, clean that stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure you get the debris out of it. Check leveling of the machine. Make sure nothing's changed. Adjust as necessary.
Yep. Throw a level up on that thing.
Yeah,
once
throw
in a
the
while.
bubble level up there. Make sure she's still where it needs to be. Perform a full system bolt check. That's something I would do.
Yeah.
Check every bolt on the machine. And some of you who have bolt together machines, that means more bolts.
That sounds
I
terrible.
would do that more frequently.
Could you
But-
imagine having to check a Chinese machine's bolts? Oh.
And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. No thanks.
Make sure you bring the extra baggie of bolts that comes along with the machine. so you
And
can
snap,
replace
snap,
them.
snap,
Yeah.
snap. Up, all the Chinese bolts broke off. Sweet. Go tell loose. No, don't go tell loose. That was a joke. Make sure you're tightening the
Go
bolts.
tell.
Yeah, that's what I like to do on the race car. I go till the bolt becomes loose. Yeah, nailed it.
Got it.
Nailed it. But yeah, no wonder why my tires fall off all the time. But yeah, then start draining and cleaning lubricants out of the unit and, put some fresh lubricant in it. Whether
Yeah.
you have a hydraulic system, whatever it is, clean it.
Right, just like changing your brake fluid in your car.
Yep, do stuff like that.
Yep.
Check your hydraulic tanks, your oils, all of that stuff.
Yep.
And then start changing and cleaning your suction filters for your vacuum pumps.
It's important.
Measure your vacuum pump. If you have a Becker, measure
Yep.
your vanes. Every year or 6 months to 12 months, you want to measure the vanes in your Becker vacuum pump. Becker vacuums have their own maintenance schedule. Make
Yep.
sure you follow them.
Filters are important. Those are definitely underrated.
Huge. Yeah, you got to check filters, and I would check filters more than every 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drain and refill coolants as necessary. If you have a tractor, check your coolants. Maybe drain it.
Makes
Depending
sense.
on if you've been driving through a really dusty field, you might want to change that. Adjust for pinion wear on your rack and pinion machines. Replace components as necessary. You're going to replace some pinions, I guarantee it.
Yeah, you are.
So start checking them.
Remember, check them. Don't neglect them.
And then yearly. Here we go.
Here we go.
We're down to the year, right?
Should be pretty easy
Now, don't
stuff at
forget.
this point, right?
Yeah, but don't forget, every year, it's still probably time for your weekly, monthly, so you're going through the whole list. So there's one time a year where your maintenance may take a little longer because you added more tasks. Yeah. So you want to, check your spindle for radial and end play issues. Check it. Make sure you don't have, something out of alignment. Make sure you don't have a bearing going bad. Check your tail stocks. If you have a fourth axis, something like that, check tail stocks for misalignment.
Yep.
Make sure things are okay there. Check your chuck cylinders for run out. Just check for run out. Make sure you don't got wear there. Your headstocks, make sure they're not damaged. Make sure you're not misaligned there. Your auto tool changers, your turrets, things like that. Make sure they're aligned properly. You don't want to be out of alignment because then you have, issues with crashing. Make sure they're parallel. You want to make sure that when they align to the tool rack, you're not ripping tools out of the tool changer. They want to slide in and out clean.
Easily.
Yeah. Inspect the entire machine for oil and air leaks.
Yep.
Make sure you don't have abnormal leakages. Don't freak out because the spindle uses a little air. That's normal.
It happens.
Make sure your air lines aren't leaking. Make sure your air connections down on the machine's master connection isn't leaking. Inspect your welds. Check your welds yearly. You're putting force into a machine. Make sure something hasn't gone bad.
Absolutely.
Welds shouldn't fail.
They shouldn't.
But unfortunately, some of you are buying Chinese machines, and guess what?
It can happen.
I've seen it more than you'd want to admit. That's something we do with the ShopSabre is we actually test our welds and we check stuff to make sure we're not going to have problems, and that's why we give a lifetime warranty on our frames.
Yeah, we have some pretty amazing welders out there, too.
We do, yeah. Check your bolts for fatigue. Retighten as necessary, replace as needed. Some bolts on your bolt-together machines, if you tighten them down 3 or 4 times, they're probably time for replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of stress on them.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of stress on those bolts. If they're backing out that easy, that means the threads are probably going.
Yep.
Perform a full system cleaning. Go through everything. Clean everything off. Make sure it looks like new when you're done.
Absolutely. Take some pride in your
Take
equipment.
some pride, exactly. Check your bearings for wear. Replace them as necessary. Again, that's something I would go back through. Realign your drive system as needed. Again, your rack and pinion system may need alignment.
Yep.
Check that stuff out. Check for squareness on your machine. Make sure everything's working. Check your head alignment. Make sure it's true. Make sure, let's be honest. You're going to probably do something you shouldn't do with your machine over the year.
It's going to happen.
It happens.
Yep.
So you should probably check your machine for alignment. Check to spindle head. Make sure it's still aligned so you're getting best cuts.
You guys know the sketchy stuff you're doing out there.
Yeah, we've seen you guys.
Absolutely.
You guys think we're dumb and they're never going to know.
Yeah,
we know. We've seen it.
You know the sketchy stuff you're doing.
We
Put
know
the time
it.
in.
You know it. Put the time to fix it.
Put the time in to make sure your machine's running right.
I agree. Clean out the computer cabinets. Like I said, the computers, the control cabinets, change the filters as needed. That's all stuff we should be doing at the yearly mark as well.
Absolutely.
So,
and this stuff should be pretty easy because you've been doing it throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
You've been doing it throughout the year. You've been fixing things. You've been maintaining things. You've been checking things. So when you get to the yearly part, it should be pretty simple.
Yeah.
This isn't taking you 2 days. This should take you a very short period of time.
Yeah. So start developing a maintenance plan. Whatever it is, contact the manufacturer of the equipment, the toy, the whatever you bought. Remember, it's no different than owning a house. You check your furnace filters, right?
Right.
You change,
Create
water
good
filters.
habits.
You do things like that. Your car, you change the oil in it. You rotate the tires. Do stuff with your machines. It's the same thing. You have to spend the time, otherwise the machines don't last.
Right.
I can build you the best machine in the world, but it's only as good as the way you take care of it.
Absolutely. It's a huge investment. Why not take care of it?
Take care of your machine.
I talk about it all the time to guys. Take pride in your machine.
Yep.
Just take pride in your equipment.
The nice thing about the ShopSabres is, specifically ShopSabre machines require less maintenance,
They do.
so you can spend more time cutting. And our machines are typically going to outlast our competition 2 to 3 times longer. We've proven it.
We've seen it.
Yeah, we've proven that. That's a proven statement. You look at the used market, there's a lot more used machines elsewhere than there are ShopSabres.
Absolutely.
That's the reason for it, is that these machines will last if you take care of them.
They sure do.
Do the maintenance on them. Do what you need to do. Don't force me to tell you to do your maintenance,
Right.
because I will tell you. If you call me up and you're like, Brandon, my bearings are not working right, and then I say, send me a picture, and then I see red bearing grease in there. Come on, Billy.
Come on, Billy.
Do your maintenance.
You used the wrong grease.
Wrong grease, man. Jesse,
Yeah.
use some grease.
Use some grease.
Put some grease in it. You and that Kia 150 and that 200,000 mile oil change.
Have you seen the thing lately?
Kia 150, bro.
No, it's still sitting at the dealer.
Haven't seen it. Disappeared because he didn't do his maintenance.
Because I put the wrong oil in it.
So it's been disappeared.
Did you know oil is not good for 10,000 miles?
I did.
I didn't.
Yeah, I know. But guess where your car is now?
It's at the dealer.
How long has it been there now, Jesse?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. This guy's going on 3
weeks.
weeks of just riding his horse to work every day.
Yep.
Speaking of horse,
Ass is starting to get a little sore.
We saw at the state fair the world's biggest dang horse I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, now we can talk because we went through all the fun stuff. Yeah, that horse was huge.
Dude, it looked over. It didn't look through the front of the stall. Is that they call it? I'm not a horse
What did that guy say?
It was a stall.
How tall was that
I'm
horse?
asking a question here.
Oh, I
Is that
forgot. I'm
called
sorry. I got excited.
Is that a stall?
I think so.
Is that what they call them?
Horse-
What is it? You don't shake your head and no at
horse
me if you don't know
stall?
the answer. Horse stall? Okay.
Stable.
Stable. There it is.
Stable.
So
We
the
were there.
stable.
You know, generic brand horse stable.
Yeah.
He was looking. You'd think the horse looks out the front gate.
Yeah.
That thing was looking over the top of it. Like, hey, what's up, dude?
And by top, we mean like the top.
Yeah, he looked out the roof.
Yeah,
he
the
was
roof.
looking down. He's like looking down my shirt.
Like 9
yo,
feet tall
bro,
over the
that's-
top.
Those are my goodies. Don't look down my shirt.
What did he say? How tall that horse was to the? What was it to the saddle?
The saddle was 6'8".
6'8".
Dude, I'm 5'3".
I'm out.
I would literally could clear that horse. I'm like, bye.
It was a damn good looking horse, though.
Dude, that thing was a huge horse.
Yeah, it was.
It was a really nice horse.
It was a very nice horse. The feet on that thing.
Yeah, it was just massive.
Incredible.
It was pretty cool.
Could you imagine the maintenance on that horse?
Remember the shovel that guy was carrying?
Yeah.
He's like, it's not even big enough to pick up the poop.
Yeah, he said usually it takes 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm out.
I'm
No
out.
good.
Think about the maintenance on that thing. 50 pounds of
I was
grain a
just gonna say
day.
that. 50 pounds of grain a day. Like, just crazy. I'm sorry that we just got derailed by horse. But, yeah.
Well, kind of fits the topic. Maintenance, right?
Dude,
the maintenance of
there
that
was
horse.
so much. But that thing was pretty cool. It was not a Clydesdale, for anybody asking. It was a not Clydesdale. Because I'm
Unsure
not a
of
horse
what kind of horse.
It was a not Clydesdale.
It was a big one.
It was a big horse. But they pulled the wagons with it and they did like shows with it. It was Ames Construction.
That's who it was.
So shout out to Ames Construction. If anybody that knows them or is listening to us, shout out to those guys. They were awesome. They talked to us. The guys out there were super cool. They were telling
Beautiful
us all
team
about
of horses.
Yeah, they were telling us
Beautiful.
all about it, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, it was pretty incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
that horse was the biggest horse I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't know a horse could get that big,
I didn't know horses had muscles like that.
dude.
Thing
Yeah.
had biceps.
It did. It had biceps.
Thing flexed on you.
It did flex on
Come
me.
in here.
It was like, come here. I'm like, oh, crap.
Get you.
I've never been afraid of a
This
horse.
horse is aggressive.
I was like, here's my wallet.
Here's my wife. You can have my wallet and my wife.
Yeah, man. High maintenance. Speaking of high maintenance. No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
Kidding.
Not me.
Oh, I'm in trouble. Oh, no. I've said too much. I'm in trouble.
You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble. Well, on that note, I'm Brandon.
I'm Jesse.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSabre.